and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 500. And today's date is October 23rd, 2014, and the title of this episode is Canada's False Flag Event Used for Many Different Agendas. And we saw yesterday there was a lone gunman. Of course, there were reports out there saying there were many gunmen, and of course this person was all dressed in black, and there were other people spotted, but, they kind of disappeared. And we see that one soldier was killed and the gunman was killed. And of course, this is a false flag event which is being used for many different things. And we're going to get into that a little bit later in this report. But let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we see and we understand that the economy of the United States and Europe completely falling apart. There is absolutely no way to get around this. There's nothing the central banks can do at this time except, of course, create an event to pretty much cover up the entire collapse of the system. But when we look at Europe and we look specifically at Italy, we see that Italy's economic output, which has contracted about 9% since the start of 2007, fell again by 0.3% in the second quarter, and a second consecutive quarter of contractions would put it into a recession. Well, I'm going to just say Italy is already in a recession. France is already in a recession. I would say they're closer to depression type of stats right now. But of course, they're going to say that's going to put them into recession. These countries are already there. If we take a look at France, their French private sector output has fallen. And if we look at some of the data, we see the France Composite Output Index fell to 48 from 48.4 in September. It's an 8-month low. France's Services Activity Index falls to 48.1, which is an 8-month low. France Manufacturing Output Index falls to 47.6. It was at 48.4. This is a 2-month low. And France's Manufacturing PMI falls to 47.3. It was at 48.8. And they're seeing the same exact thing happen in each one of these European countries. Italy, Spain, France, Cyprus, Greece, they are all having major problems, and this is starting to spread into the UK, into Germany, and many other countries, and the whole entire system is starting to come down. We saw this back in 1929 where Europe was in a recession / depression. The United States, all eyes were on the stock market. It was hitting the highs of about 400 points back then, and then all of a sudden everything came tumbling down. Of course, they were hiding all the 10 cities. They were hiding the people who were on the soup lines and bread lines, and they're kind of doing the same thing today. Of course, they have the EBT cards where people are subsidized by the government to help with food purchases, but they're trying to remove those people who are completely homeless out of the cities so people don't understand what is really going on. They're passing legislation that it is a crime to feed the homeless, and they're doing this on purpose because they're trying to cover up everything right now so no one becomes the wiser. But what we're seeing is that the real economic indicators in the United States and the stock market are completely on opposite ends of the world right now, and we can see the stock market is having continuous problems. Today it's back up, but the other day it was way down, and it's having this strange fluctuation. And actually we saw this back in 29, we saw this back in 2008, where the market starts to fluctuate on the top, and we can see this thing come crumbling down at any second. Here in the United States, what do we see? Well, we see the initial jobless claims. They have risen by most in 3 months. And again, we have to remember how all of this is being calculated. What we have to realize is that those people who are claiming unemployment, especially those people in retail, they have to work a certain number of hours and reach a certain dollar amount. Now, this is different in each state, but normally it's around 30 hours and they have to reach a certain dollar amount. If they don't reach it, they do not qualify for unemployment insurance, and pretty much they're not going to apply for anything. No one's going to really notice them. Those people who have not been on an interview within 4 weeks, those people are considered fallen off. They are no longer looking for a job. Even though you're sending out resumes a month, 2 months, 3 months down the line, it doesn't matter. You have given up. So these numbers that they're giving us are completely fake, phony, and false. They're a complete illusion. And you have to remember, if you come from a full-time job and you get one part-time or two part-time, if you get the one part-time, it's one job. If you get two part-time, it's two jobs. So the whole thing is completely manipulated to keep this alive and to keep the unemployment numbers down, and they're continually doing this. But when we really look at this, the unemployment is very close to 30% or so. Youth unemployment is very high. Those people coming out of college cannot find work, and we're seeing the real economic indicators here in the United States. They're getting worse and worse as time goes on. U.S. manufacturing, they just printed a 56.2. This is a 3-month low, and it's the biggest miss since August of 2013. U.S.'s latest PMI print with collapsing new orders, 57.1 down from 59.8, lowest since January. This is the biggest 2-month drop in U.S. PMI since May of 2013. And we are seeing more and more layoffs. Lloyd's International laying off 9,000 employees. Sears is out there. They're going to be laying off 5,457 employees. Now, a lot of these are part-time, and they're not going to be eligible for unemployment insurance. And they're going to be closing 100 stores. And this is before the holidays. What else are we seeing? Well, we're going to see at least 46 Kmart stores close, another 30 Sears department stores close, and 31 Sears auto centers are scheduled to close before the end of January of 2015. So we can see already right now, they know this is not going to be a good holiday season. They're already getting prepared, and I'm going to say we most likely, as we go into 2015, we'll probably see Sears disappear, JCPenney disappear, Radio Shack disappear, and many other retailers. Because why? Because the American people just don't have those funds to go shopping in these stores and many stores. We have unemployment, we have underemployment, the youth of America coming out of college, they're still living with their parents, they have a huge amount of student loan, and we can see the retail market is really taking the hit, and it's not going to get any better. It's actually going to get worse. If we look at real estate, the same thing is happening there. Everything is declining. Yesterday I went over some more stats with real estate, and as we move into this winter time, real estate is going to plummet. The only way they're trying to keep this going is the interest rates, mortgage rates are coming down. They're trying to bring more people in as they see the rates going down, trying to get them to take a mortgage. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are out there saying, listen, all you need is 3% down. That's no problem. And there's some places where builders will spot you the other 3%, so it's pretty much 100% financing. They're trying to bring anyone in to purchase a house to get this going. The same thing happened in the auto industry. Subprime people, if a heartbeat, come on in. You can buy a car, no problem whatsoever. And what we're seeing now is it's taking its toll. Delinquencies are up about 70% or so. The repo man is visiting the people's homes and taking back their cars because these people really couldn't afford a car, but they saw the deals. They saw, oh, my bad credit, we should get a new car. We don't have the cash to pay for the repairs on the car. This is no money down. They'll give us the car, and it's not working out whatsoever. Now, Russia, they understand that the central bankers are eventually going to start a war. They realize it. China realizes it. They're completely separating themselves, and it looks like Russia is continually de-dollarizing. 18% of dollars removed from it since June 20th. So we're looking that they are completely de-dollarizing right now and removing as much as they possibly can. And again, they're using the ruble to do direct trades. They're using the yuan and any other currency, and of course they're continually buying gold. Now, we understand the oil prices are coming down, and we can see that there are rumors out there that Saudi Arabia and the United States are lowering the prices to put pressure on Russia to show the sanctions are working, and they're trying to destroy the economy of Russia. But during this time, it seems that China is taking advantage of the situation. Supertankers bound for Chinese ports has grown to a record high level in 9 months. The number of the largest crude transporting vessels in the industry reached about 80 on average. Each of these tankers carries about 2 million barrels, which means that in the near future, China will receive about 160 million barrels of oil. China is trying to fill all of its storage facilities to the maximum while the price is low right now. So they're bringing in as much as they possibly can. They're taking advantage of these low prices. They're also taking advantage of the low gold prices where they're continually purchasing, and they're just loading up on gold. Okay, now after the elections, it looks like Congress is going to have to pass some legislation, some bills, and when it reconvenes on November 12th, it looks like they're looking at a $1 trillion plus omnibus spending bill, including roughly about 550 billion defense appropriations bill, with nearly 60 billion for overseas contingency operations. Another stopgap measure to extend the continuing resolution expired December 11th, the National Defense Authorization Act, and we know they usually sign this late at night, and they have a lot of riders in it, so no one realizes what's going on, and they have to re-sign it again this year. Most of the time they sign it during the end of the year, either New Year's, when most of everyone has completely disappeared. It has been signed into law. The specific authorization for the Pentagon's program to train and equip vetted Syrian rebels also expires December 11th, so they have to renew all of this going forward. Now, it looks like Judicial Watch, and this is coming from Chris Farrell. He says the Obama administration orchestrated the crush of children crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, signing contracts with social services groups to care for them many months earlier. And he says during his investigation, this is absolutely true. 6 or 7 months before the manufactured crisis of these kids coming across the border, they were getting contracts because they realized they were going to have social services and health services come in and help with this nightmare of all these children coming over the border. And again, we have said this many, many times that they've been advertising in these Central American countries. This is part of their agenda, and now it is completely confirmed by Judicial Watch that this was a manufactured crisis. It was created by Obama to bring all of these teenagers over the border because this is what the corporations want. The people of the United States do not want this. It was the corporations, and this is why he's waiting for after the elections to go ahead and put his executive order into place where it gives amnesty to all these illegals, and this was part of the plan from the beginning. Now, it looks like Ohio is planning for a no-refusal blood draw checkpoint. A no-refusal checkpoint where drivers will be forced to stop and potentially submit to having their blood taken on the side of the road by law enforcement authorities is planned for Clark County, Ohio tomorrow. Every car will be checked to ensure that the drivers are not impaired. If there is sufficient probable cause to believe that a driver is operating a vehicle while impaired, law enforcement will seek a blood search warrant from a neutral and detached magistrate. And of course, they're going to collect their DNA, they're going to collect their blood, and again, this is a violation of your Fourth Amendment, which they cannot do, but they're going to force people to do this, and we saw videos in the past where they actually strap people down to take someone's blood. And again, this is your property. There is no reason why you have to submit to anything like this whatsoever. This is in complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. Now, it seems that we have another intruder who scaled the fence of the White House, and it seems like they're building this up, and we said this back a couple of reports ago, that now what they're doing is they're creating buffer zones in front of the White House, and this is going to push them to create a buffer zone even further out. They'll probably put a permanent fence, because what they're doing is now they're protecting the White House and many other government buildings from what they know is coming, and that is a collapse of the system, people rioting, and the first thing they're going to do is try to get to the White House and any other government building. So they're using this to show that, look, we have these crazy people out there, and we need to stop them. This person who jumped the fence pretty much was stopped, and it shows that he pretty much punched one of the attack dogs, and the entire White House was locked down for 90 minutes, and it seems like Obama was in the White House at this time. Now, in the UK, it seems like there is a new policy which was announced by the British Home Office to allow unannounced searches of homes of registered British gun owners. That, to me, is kind of scary, where if you own a weapon and it's registered, the police can just do an unannounced search of the home. And we should look at this and remember this, because this is what they're trying to do here in the United States. If the people who want to get rid of the Second Amendment have their way, this is exactly what we would see in the United States, where they would come to the house and do searches. And yes, there are things in Obamacare where if you have a weapon, they can come in, they can search your house and look for those weapons to make sure that they're stashed away and kept in a safe area. And again, this is completely against your rights. It's against the Fourth Amendment. It's against the Second Amendment. And again, they're trying to get around this with health issues. But we need to take a look and see what's happening in other countries, because this is exactly what they want to happen here in the United States. Now, it looks like the Red Cross is out there, and they are saying that Ebola could take 4 to 6 months to contain it, but only if necessary steps are taken to stop the virus from spreading. And they say we are on the right path, that they could have this completely contained in West Africa in 4 to 6 months. Now, what's very interesting, and I know there's a lot of talk about this, where because of this whole Ebola situation, and I see there's more reports coming out that they have quarantined certain people because they've come from Africa and they might have Ebola, and they're just quarantining them just in case. But again, there's no evidence that they actually have it. They're just taking precautions. But we all understand that they really didn't have to have Ebola spread across the country. They just needed enough to scare people, to have fear that it is spreading, and it seems like they got their point across and people were very scared. And also, we understand that the drug companies are creating vaccines, and of course what they would like to do is make this mandatory where everyone would get a vaccine. And we can see right now that all these companies are on a fast track to produce them. But what's very interesting about this, and this is how you know this is where it's headed, because the drug makers are looking for some kind of indemnity from governments or multilateral agencies against possible losses or claims arising from the widespread emergency use of the new Ebola vaccines. They don't want to be held accountable for any type of problem with the vaccines, or if you come down with Ebola, or if you get some other disease, or if you can't reproduce, or anything like that. While the issue will not delay the industry's work to accelerate production and clinical testing of the 3 experimental vaccines, it is likely to be discussed at a high-level meeting in Geneva on Thursday. World Health Organization's Director General Margaret Chan will chair the meeting, which includes industry executives, representatives from countries including those affected by Ebola, drug regulators, and funders. Guess who's in front of this looking for this? GlaxoSmithKline Chief Executive Andrew Whitty said a system of indemnity made sense given the unique situation in which companies are being urged by the World Health Organization to fast-track the supply of the vaccines in a matter of months rather than years. So basically what they're doing is they're protecting themselves, and they can vaccinate pretty much anyone and not be held responsible for any effects of the vaccine. So we can see exactly what they're trying to do. They're moving in the direction of saying, yes, we will make this mandatory, you will get the vaccine, and you can hold us responsible. And this is what they're trying to maneuver. This is what they're trying to do. And again, if they create something and they test it properly, they need to be held accountable, and it doesn't matter. It's coming out from this company. Can you imagine if every company that created something is not held accountable? Well, I created this automobile. I shouldn't be held accountable. Oh, I created this product. I should not be held accountable. Yes, if you created something and there are specific things in it that aren't supposed to be there, or it doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do, then yes, you need to be held accountable. But it looks like they are definitely trying to protect themselves because they know there are other things in the vaccine. Just like we've seen, there's many things in other vaccines that you take, one being the flu shot. Now, it looks like the crash in Russia of that CEO, the black boxes were taken and they have been deciphered, and they're looking over the data. They say it's intact, and they're going to be reporting on what exactly happened to the airplane and why it crashed. And of course, we're never going to get to the bottom of what really happened, but we can see that it's just very odd that the CEO who said you don't have to trade oil in dollars just so happened to die in a plane crash. Again, I don't believe in coincidences whatsoever. Now, there is a warning out there from the State Department, and they are warning U.S. citizens, and you know what happens every single time they warn U.S. citizens of something. That means something's about to happen, and the United States central bankers are getting ready to do something. And guess where this is? In Ukraine, on the Russian border. The U.S. State Department issued a warning to American citizens on Thursday, saying that staying in Russian regions near the border with Ukraine is now unsafe. All U.S. citizens located in or considering travel to the border region of the Russian Federation should be aware that the tensions have the potential to jeopardize the safety and security of U.S. citizens traveling or living in these regions. The situation along the border is unpredictable and could change quickly, and this tells me that they are getting ready to push the Ukrainian war once again, and they're giving warning to the U.S. citizens in that area, just like they give warnings to all those areas like in Sudan, to say, yes, those people in the embassy, you should take warning, something's about to happen. In Kenya, there is a warning coming out. We see this happen in every single part, every time the United States government central bankers are ready to push forward, and they are definitely getting ready to do this. Now, it looks like in Lebanon, the Lebanese army has arrested a top Islamic terrorist group, and they're saying they've been recruiting Lebanese militants to fight alongside the Islamic State. And again, this is a build-up to show that the Islamic State is in Lebanon, because eventually what's going to happen is the United States government, central bankers, with all the other private Western central bank countries, they have to go into these areas, into these countries, to keep the puppet government in place. And of course, it's going to happen in Libya. It's going to happen in Yemen, because we've already been hearing reports that the Islamic State are already in these countries, or Al-Qaeda is merging with the Islamic State, and this will give them the ability to go into these countries and stop them. And why do they have to do this? Because, again, they are very nervous that these countries, once they start selling oil, they will not use the dollar. They will sell it for other currencies, and if this happens, other countries will not have to hold the dollar in reserves. They will then send it back to the United States. This will devalue the dollar. It will collapse the system, and this is what they're very nervous about, and this is why they have the Islamic State causing chaos in the entire region. Now, French militaries, they are getting ready. They are moving troops toward the Libyan border within weeks, along with the U.S. intelligence, because what's happening in Libya? That's right. The tribes of Libya have taken back their country. And now the United States have given warning, of course, with other countries like France, Italy, and others, who said we are going to place sanction on any of those people who try to sell oil or get rid of the central bank in the country. And if you try to do this, we will sanction you. And of course, this is not going to work, because if they deal in other currencies or they barter in gold, it really won't affect them whatsoever. And they don't know who all these people are, so they're really not going to do it. Of course, they're probably talking about the new government that's in place right now, and you can see that They might not even listen, but we can see they're getting very, very nervous here. A French base will go up within weeks in a desert outpost just 100 kilometers from the lawless Libyan border region overrun by the Islamic militants, which they're trying to say, yes, that's the Islamic State. The official said, in condition of anonymity, because he wasn't really authorized to say this, France has 3,000 troops, 200 armored vehicles, and 6 fighter jets deployed in the region right now. And you can see, along with the United States, they're going to make their move to try to take back Libya somehow, some way, and we're going to have to watch that very, very carefully. Now, it seems like there was a poll out there, and the poll says that most Americans, and this is coming from Pew Research Center, they're saying that 6 in 10 Americans, 59%, say the U.S.-led campaign against the Islamic State is completely not working. Well, of course it's not working. The Islamic State is controlled by the United States, Israel, UK, and other Arab nations. They are a proxy army to do what the United States couldn't do, which was invade Syria, cause chaos in Iraq. They do not answer to anyone. They do not answer to the UN. They do not belong to any state. They are a terrorist or a proxy army doing what they need to do, and nobody can really stop them because there's no government that controls them. This is a perfect plan, and they're using it. Now, we understand that the United States is setting up a division headquarters inside Iraq that can support between 10 and 30 soldiers, 10,000 to 30,000 soldiers. And we understand there's supposedly 13,000 soldiers on the way. And it seems like they're getting everything ready. But what's interesting about this is that the United States reportedly plans to take control of a strategic airport in Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan and use the site as a military airbase in the region. I wonder where they're setting everything up. Unnamed Kurdish officials say the evacuation of Harar Airport has started and was demanded by Washington to be vacant so the United States government can move into it. The airport's personnel have been ordered to clear out within weeks. U.S. commanders visited the territory last month to examine the airport and its surroundings. Harar Airport is located 60 kilometers from the Iranian border and overlooks Turkey and Syria. The airport will be Washington's only military base in Iraq's Kurdistan region, and it seems like they are definitely building something up. You can see they're putting everything in place, and you know what this is for, because this is being set up to eventually go into Syria and remove Assad. And again, this is going to have dire effects because what's going to happen is Russia and China are on the other side, and you know they will get involved, and the central bankers really don't care. Either way, they will cover up this economic collapse. They will bring us into war, and this is exactly what they're trying to do. Now, a billionaire Saudi businessman, Alweed bin Talal, has admitted to the kingdom's support for the Islamic State terrorists who fight against the Iraqi and Syrian government. And it looks like it's the Saudi king's nephew, and he admitted it. Yes, we are funding them, and we are helping to remove Assad, and this is what they've been trying to do for a long, long time. Now, it looks like Syria and Russia, they are in the 9th session of deliberations of the Syrian-Russian Commission for Trade, Economic, Scientific, and Technical Cooperation continued on Thursday for the second day in a row in the Russian city of Sochi. The protocol includes promising investment opportunities for the Russian side in Syria, particularly in the energy sector, including power, oil, and gas, and industry and construction. So you can see what's happening. Russia is making deals with Syria. Russia is making deals with Iran. China is making deals in the oil energy sector. They are becoming very close, and guess what? The central bankers will not have this. They need to prop up the dollar. They need to get into Syria, put the oil on the US dollar, then eventually get into Iran, and this is their plan. Now, it looks like the U.S. coalition is continuing with their airstrikes in Syria, and they are now hitting more oil fields in Deir ez-Zor. Of course, as we know, they were hitting the Islamic State in this area, and of course now the Islamic State has captured half the city, so now they're going after the oil wells in this area, and of course what they're doing is they're destroying the infrastructure of Syria. That is all they're doing. They're going after all of the places where they produce money. Most of these are civilian owned. They are not owned by or controlled by the Islamic State, and they're destroying the infrastructure in Syria. Now, it seems that the U.S. military are only going to train the moderates, the Free Syrian Army, the new forces that they're going to train between 5,000 and 15,000. They're only going to be trained in defensive role. And why are they doing this? Well, as the Islamic State moves forward and takes over certain areas, the Free Syrian Army is going to move into that area and defend it, so the Syrian army, the Assad Syrian army, cannot take that area over again. So they're teaching them how to do this. But there's one other reason why they're doing this. This is an excuse to set the stage for the deployment of U.S. Special Operation Forces inside Syria to lead the offensive against the Assyrian government. The Syrian militants to be recruited by the U.S. military will be trained to defend territory. It gives the U.S. an excuse to deploy its special forces inside parts of Syria that are far away from any fighting with the Islamic State, based on the claim that these moderates only engage in defensive activity, and therefore you cannot charge the United States with using its special forces inside Syria. It's only there for defensive purposes. It's not there for offensive operations against the Syrian government. So basically, they're just helping the moderates defend themselves against possible attacks from the Islamic State. And Washington can justify having U.S. Special Forces in the suburbs of Damascus. So you see what they're doing. They're continually making things up to bring in troops. So basically, that's boots on the ground. And we can see what they're doing. They're having the Islamic State, which is the proxy army, move into the regions where they want. They bring in the trained army to defend that area now, and they also bring in special forces into that area. And it's a perfect plan, and eventually what they're going to do is they're going to hit Damascus, try to get Assad, but I'm sure Russia, Assad, looking at this, they're saying to themselves, we know exactly what they're doing, and we're going to see calls out from Russia, China, Syria, once the United States tries to maneuver this type of operation. Okay, now, we understand there was a shooting in Canada. We understand they're linking this to homegrown terrorism, and we understand that, the Islamic State is coming to Canada. And, of course, as we know, this is a complete false flag event. Now, look at what has happened here. There are certain things that actually don't make sense. The shooter was at the National War Memorial. Then the shooter ran across the street, across this huge grassy expanse in front of the Parliament building, made it through metal detectors, and guards who had machine guns and other weapons went into the Parliament and started shooting. Does this make any sense to anybody? It makes no sense whatsoever, and there are reports all over the place that there was gunfire coming from all different areas. So something already doesn't make sense. Now, of course, when they start to do this, there's always another agenda. And, of course, the agenda is to bring Canada into the coalition, have them join, go fight in the Syrian war, because what's happening is they're getting prepped to go into Syria, and they want more and more current countries in the coalition. So they're definitely trying to maneuver this and do this at this point. And what we understand is that 2 days prior, it seems like there was a man who was driving a car, hit 2 soldiers with his car, killing 1 in Quebec. And of course, this person was an Islamic State who joined the Islamic State and wanted to become a terrorist. And they rose the terror threat up from low to medium. And we can see that they were trying to push this because there was a vote coming up about giving more power to CSIS, which is almost like the CIA in the United States here, or the NSA. And we can see this was for a specific reason. And we can see this is why this was being done. But this is not the only reason this was being done. There are many other agendas right now. Now, as we know, the shooter, his name is Michael Zahaf Bibu, and he was an Islamic jihadist who joined up. This is what they're telling us. And of course, he was dressed in black, and he was running around, and we have pictures of him. Yes, he looks like a terrorist, and we can see right now that they locked down the entire region and they closed everything off. People were scared, and they made it look really, really good. And of course, most of the things that are coming out actually don't make sense. Like, I saw the video inside the Parliament building. Why did if there's gunshots flying all over, why was there someone with a phone camera filming inside? Most of the time the police will say, get out, it's dangerous, you can't be in here, because this is a operation that they're performing, and you see all the people with gun drawn running down. It makes no sense why this would happen. How did he get through the metal detectors? How did he run through across across the street through the grass? I mean, if you look how large that grassy expanse is in front of the Parliament, how did he make it all through this? It makes no sense whatsoever. So basically what is happening here, Canada's spy service says judicial rulings are causing it to lose track of terrorism suspects, and new surveillance powers are urgently needed. Now, this was being brought up at the same time all of this was occurring. On Thursday, Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney announced that the federal government will amend the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act to restore surveillance powers to the agency and broaden its ability to share information with allies. It will expand the power of Canada's intelligence services and prohibit defense lawyers and even judges from questioning Canadian Security Intelligence Service informants. So basically what we're seeing is pretty much what happened here in the United States. We had an event. They had this legislation all ready to go, like the Patriot Act, like the NDAA. They always have things ready to go, and it seems like this is exactly what happened, because Prime Minister Stephen Harper said on Thursday the government will expedite plans to give more powers of detention and surveillance to security agencies in a wake of an attack on Parliament. So we can see they've had this ready, and now they're going to give more power to this agencies where judges and lawyers cannot question anything they do. But there's other reasons why this is occurring. U.S. President Obama said it was important for Canada and the United States to be in sync when it comes to dealing with terrorist activities. U.S.-Canada Beyond the Border Action Plan, which was announced back in 2011, the deal focuses on addressing security threats in the earliest point possible and facilitating the lawful movement of people, goods, and services into Canada and the United States, and creates a long-term partnership to improve the management of our shared borders. Phase 1 of the Entry-Exit Information System. The program included collecting and exchanging biographical information at 4 selected land border ports of entry. It will involve exchanging the biographic data collected from third country nationals and permanent residents of Canada and the U.S. at all common ports of entry. Both countries are further merging databases and are expanding surveillance and intelligence gathering operations. In 2014, they will also start sharing biometric information at the border. This will further advance the creation of North America's security perimeter, where all travelers will be tracked and traced in real time. DHS's Real ID will allow sharing of all this info. If you remember, they want all the states to come into compliance with DHS's Real ID system, where it's fed up, all the information is fed into a DHS database, and that is your iris scan, your DNA, your fingerprints, all your information about you, your social profile. Your license will have an RFID chip and a barcode just in case the RFID chip fails. All of this information will freely be exchanged with Canada now and Mexico. And you can see the agenda here is to bring North America into being one thing where there really are no borders, and they have the ability to track every single person and their movements. So basically what we're seeing is this false flag event was to basically get Canada on board with the coalition, because eventually what they're going to do is they're going to attack Syria, and they're trying to bring as many countries on board right now, and they're getting Canada to trade information, to give their secret service more authority of spying on people. And all of this was done through terror. This is exactly what happens. It removes the people's rights, and people get scared and say, yes, we need this, and this is done on purpose. And what we're seeing right now is the federal authorities here in the U.S. now have warnings out there that U.S. law enforcement need to prepare for a potential terror attack against themselves, from homegrown Islamic State members or supporters. And this is coming from a leaked document which is dated October 2014. The memo was issued by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security as a joint intelligence bulletin, and is titled Islamic State of Iraq and its supporters encouraging attacks against law enforcement and government personnel. So we can see already they are planning for this major false flag event, and they are pushing this very hard. Now, since this attack in Canada, we see that the security at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery has been increased in the wake of the shooting, and we also see that the former CIA chief is now out there saying that, and this is coming from Mike Morrell, he has never been so worried about the terror threat in the United States. I'm more worried about a threat in the United States than I've ever been in a long time. And they're building this up to make everyone believe that, yes, terror is coming to the United States, to Canada, and you can see how this is all being pulled together right now. And Canada, you thought you were out of it. Nope, you're being dragged right in. You're going to be part of the collapse. You're going to be part of this false flag event, and we see it forming right now. Now, of course, the corporate media is out there, and they're saying that the lone wolf attacks by Islamic extremists, they are on the rise, and you can see it. The shooter there, what happened in the United States, it's all over the place. The FBI has been catching these lone wolf, and these are dupes or FBI agents, but they're making it seem like, yes, they're all over the country, and they could have a master plan, but we can't track them because they're in lone wolf groups, and we can see how this is building. The FBI just came out with a new warning. Reporters are now being warned by the Federal Bureau of Investigation that extremists affiliated with the so-called Islamic State have been tasked with kidnapping journalists, according to the Washington Post. The FBI warned in a memo sent out on Thursday that the credible information obtained by the Bureau suggests that the Islamic State group intends on kidnapping journalists. Why in the world are they going to kidnap journalists? It makes no sense. All of this makes no sense whatsoever. If the terrorist group supposedly is in Iraq and Syria, and they're battling to create this caliphate, why are they drawing in the United States, Canada, and the coalition more and more by doing all this? It makes no sense. Let's take an example of what happened in Libya and Yemen and what's going on in Lebanon. These are the people who really want to take back their countries. Do you hear them screaming out that they're going to rain terror on the United States? Do you hear them screaming out they're going to rain terror and kidnap people? No. Their objective is get the country back. If the Islamic State is truly this new organization that wants to create a caliphate, they would do it quietly. They wouldn't want the United States and the coalition in there bombing them while they're trying to do this. No, they would do it quietly. They wouldn't make any type of terror threat. They would be making deals with the people in the country to rise up against this and create this. But that's not what this is. They want the Hollywood-esque propaganda out there. They want everyone to think that there's this terrorist group that is on a rampage to kidnap journalists, to behead journalists, to put out videos and have Facebook pages and Twitter and to have chatter of all over the place. And of course, as we know, this is all PR propaganda. It is so made up. It's so obvious that this is what it's all about, and they're trying to convince everyone in the world that they're going to be raining terror all over the place. But if you notice, the Islamic State is only in those places where the United States wants to go and where they need to go back to, and that is Yemen, Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. Do you see them talking anything about Israel? No. Do you see them moving into Iran at this point? No, but there are certain information that the Islamic State is trying to get in there because that's where the United States government wants to go. Do you see the Islamic State going into Turkey? No, they support them. So you don't hear anything about that. Are they going into Egypt? No. Jordan? No. It's only the places where the United States, Israel, UK, and other Arab nations want to go into. Are they in Saudi Arabia? No. They're funding them. The nephew just said they're funding them. So this is all planned. It's made up. But what we can expect here is a major, major false flag coming very, very soon. And I've talked about this many times, that it would be a multi-pronged type of event that will hit the United States, where we will see the destruction of the financial system. We will see them hit the power grid. We will see cities being hit by either dirty nukes or some type of chemical weapons. We will see this. They're going to try to do this all together at once. And I'm not saying that the financial institution, I'm saying they want to bring it home to make sure it hits all parts of the country and Canada and other places, to make it seem like the Islamic State is everywhere. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.